What's up, YouTube? This is Boxingwave. This will be my final video on the Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez big fight this Saturday. Okay, the fight is in a few days. There's a lot of headlines going on with this fight, especially with the WBC thing. I uploaded a video on that topic yesterday. If you haven't seen it, check that out. I will leave the I'll be leaving the link to that in the description of this video and other videos. Okay, I also did a full breakdown months ago when the fight was announced for Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez, who was gonna win the fight and how and what each fighter needed to do. I'm gonna speak a little bit more on that in this video. I'm gonna speak on the face-off, and some of the other things that just I wanted to talk about in relation to this this big fight this weekend. Okay. But this will be the final video unless something crazy, something dramatic happens. I'm not going to be speaking on this fight anymore. Now, as far as the whole WBC thing, right? I wasn't aware. I know I made my video, but I wasn't actually aware that Miguel Cotto did not pay the $800,000. I thought he paid the $800,000, and because he paid the $800,000, he felt like the extra $300,000 to the fee for the sanctioning fee for his belt was a little too much, and that's why he didn't pay, because he already had paid for the step aside money for Triple G. Now that I know that Cotto didn't even pay that, it further proves my point that Miguel Cotto is a hustler, and he scammed his way through this, and WBC allowed it. You know, and De La Hoya's mad, allegedly Cotto's mad, and, you know, all these people are upset about it, but I just don't understand. Well, I do understand. I do, because I explained this yesterday. Why would the WBC let Cotto step aside from fighting Triple G and fighting Canelo without paying the $800,000? Just because Cotto says, oh, I'll pay it later, or didn't respond, or all of this time they're waiting until a few days before the fight to finally strip him of the title. The dude didn't give you the $800,000. He's not going to give it to you now. He already used the belt as leverage in the negotiations, like I already said. And I feel like the WBC only allowed this because they really wanted to make that fight happen with Canelo and Miguel Cotto. That's the only reason why. Let's say Cotto fights Daniel Gill. He beats Daniel Gill. And the WBC say, all right, well, Golovkin is your mandatory. You have to fight him. And Cotto's like, well, I don't want to fight him. All right, but I'll pay the step aside money at a later time. Okay. And they're like, cool. But he's fighting Canelo now, and they're negotiating, and Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez and Golden Boy, the way they're negotiating, they're basing it off the fact that Miguel Cotto is the lineal middleweight WBC champion. So he didn't pay the step aside money yet, but the WBC waits up until now to enforce the WBC title, and Miguel Cotto not defending it against his mandatory. And I feel like in a way the WBC played their part into this too, because they could have stripped Cotto months ago. They could have gave Cotto a deadline to pay this money, this step aside money. But they knew if Cotto did not have this title, they knew that this fight was probably not going to happen, because Miguel Cotto is very hard to negotiate as it is. And if Miguel Cotto did not have that title, it would have been much harder to negotiate a fight between Canelo Alvarez and Miguel Cotto with both of their egos. We already know that. So this is why they waited so long, and this is why they waited until this week to finally strip him for not paying that money. Cotto was never going to pay that money. Okay? So I wasn't aware that he didn't pay that neither. So he basically got off the hook of the $1.1 million. Okay? All right, but I already spoke on most of that stuff in my video I uploaded yesterday. All right, so let's move on. The face off. I didn't really care for the face off. I thought the 24/7 episode that I saw the first episode. I thought that episode was cool, but the face off itself, I really didn't care for. There's not really much of a backstory with this fight. We know that they were supposed to fight a few times, and that got derailed because, Cotto lost to Austin Trout or whatever, and then, that fight didn't happen. So the fight, I think it was supposed to happen last year again. It fell through, so it just never happened. But outside of that, there really was no backstory to it. It wasn't like the Sergio Martinez, where Sergio Martinez was exposing Cotto as far as much of a diva Miguel Cotto was when it came to negotiations, picking the ring corner, who's coming out first, the money, and Sergio Martinez was the champion. And he's like, why are you doing this A side, B side stuff? It doesn't matter. I'm the champion. You're coming to fight me in my division. And it was a good face off because, it was very intense because Sergio Martinez really disliked this guy. And then we could go back to the face off between Margarito and Cotto rematch because of the story with that. Because Cotto feels that since Margarito got caught with the plastered gloves, the plaster hand wraps, with Shane Mosley, he felt that Margarito probably used them against him in his fight. So in their first fight, I mean. So there was a lot of drama in those face-offs, and I felt this face-off was a little boring. I mean, it was entertaining to watch, but I had no reason to go back and watch it again. It was nothing really significant said in that face-off. All right. So I really didn't think anything of it, but I feel like this drama with this whole Golovkin WBC thing has helped promote the fight because up until this point, there hasn't really been anything going on as far as the headlines to build this fight. There hasn't been any since they first announced the fight and they went on their 3-4 city tour or whatever they did. There hasn't really been any headlines like that as far as this fight. I think this has been the biggest week. And this whole WBC thing is kind of helped promote it and build a fight because everyone is talking about it in boxing right now. So I think it's kind of good in that sense that it's, this WBC strippage and everything has come up this week because they needed something to help build this fight. Like I said before, I don't really think the hype is as big as it should be. A fight of this caliber should be huge. It should be mega. It should be doing 1.5 million. I don't think it will do that. I think they're even lucky if they even reach 1 million. No, I'm projecting more like 600,000, 650,000 to 800,000. That's what I'm projecting. It's really hard to do 1 million right now. It's very hard to do it. I'm not saying they won't. I would like them to. I would like them to be successful, because it helps boxing. But at the end of the day, I just don't think the hype outside of this week hasn't really been that strong. All right. Now, as far as the fight itself, and I already gave a breakdown, like I said. If you want, check that video out. But last thoughts, I think what Canelo has to do, and I think Cotto's gonna win the fight. I picked Cotto to win. As the week's been going by, it seemed like little less and less people think Cotto's actually going to win this fight. I know Canelo's the favorite, but when I talk to people, it doesn't seem too many people think Cotto's gonna win this fight. I'm gonna stand my ground, and I'm gonna pick Cotto to win this fight. I mean, we all know Cotto's my favorite fighter, but I picked against him in fights. It's not like I'm just being totally biased. Yes, I want him to win, but I also think he could win this fight. I think the knockout of James Kirkland helped build. It made people believe that Cotto was so powerful because it's been a while. I mean, not Cotto, Canelo. It's been a while since Canelo actually really knocked someone out. But he has been fighting some tough opponents, But I don't think Canelo actually knocked someone out since he fought Josecito Lopez. Okay, I mean, he stopped Angulo, but Angulo was pretty much fine in that fight. A lot of people thought that was a premature stoppage. I mean, he was losing badly, but he had his moments in the later half of that fight. So I'm gonna stick with Cotto. I'm still gonna ride with Cotto. I think Cotto, and his overall experience and his technique is gonna be too much in his movement, and it's gonna be too much for Canelo. I've been watching more Canelo fights. I said I was gonna do a video originally of comparing their 5 or 6 common opponents, and I didn't do the video because I really didn't see a point. I did one for Mayweather and Pacquiao, but in this scenario, I really didn't feel like the need to do it because I really didn't think it mattered. It's not like like Austin Trout obviously did better, or Canelo did better against Trout than Cotto did, even though I don't think he did great against Trout. And I thought the fight could have still gone either way. I think Canelo did better against Trout than Cotto. Cotto fought Mosley when he was more in his prime. Cotto obviously did much better against Alfonso Gomez. Who else is there? I can't remember everybody. I know it's like 5 or 6 guys off the top. I can't remember everybody, but I really just didn't think it mattered. I really didn't think it mattered. So that's why I didn't do the video, all right? I didn't even want to do a breakdown of that because at the end of the day, the styles is what matters. And I think this is such a 50-50 fight that it really doesn't matter who did better against past opponents because, I think either one of these guys have a good chance of winning this fight, all right? Either by decision or knockout. Now, Canelo, overall, what he needs to do, in my opinion, Cotto is going to be using a lot of movement, okay? He's going to be moving. He's going to use the ring. We don't want another Lara accident to happen there where Canelo was following Lara around the ring. He got himself set up in traps, and he was lunging and reaching to try to get to Lara. He looked very sloppy. He missed a lot of shots. He didn't land many headshots in that fight. Okay, he won the fight just based off being aggressive and going to the body. So he, in my opinion, being that Canelo is good at counter punching, I think Canelo should fight more on his back foot. He can fight on his back foot. He cannot fight following Miguel Cotto around because Miguel Cotto is going to be changing directions, and coming in, changing levels on him, going to the body, going up top, doing combinations. He's going to be in and out, He's a little bit more swift when it comes to moving, throwing a jab out there. And Canelo, I think, should be more on his back foot trying to counter. He tried to do it with Floyd. He tried to outbox Floyd. But in this case, I think he should try to kind of outbox Cotto because I think he is the bigger man. I think he is the bigger puncher, and he's a good counter puncher. And I think he needs to try to time Cotto when he comes in, try to land a big shot because he can lure Cotto into his space. That's what he needs to do. Try to lure Cotto to him. And, Cotto's going to come. Cotto's a bull. He's going to come. He's not like Lara where he can wait all day long. Cotto's going to come in. You want to try to lure him into a fight, okay? And Cotto's problem on what Cotto can't do is Cotto cannot stay in the pocket with Canelo too long because he gets a little comfortable in there with sometimes. And you got to remember, he's in danger because once you're in Canelo's space, that's when Canelo is at his best. That's why James Kirkland was put there to get knocked out, in my opinion, because, Kirkland is a guy that's going to smother you, and you don't want to smother Canelo because he is a big puncher. He goes to the body well. He throws big combination. And he reminded people how big of a puncher he really is. It's been a while since he had a knockout, but I knew the knockout of James Kirkland was coming, okay? Whether he was with Aaron Wolf or not, I knew Canelo was going to knock this guy out. So Cotto, he has to stick to his game plan, I know Freddie Roach, and they've been saying that, they've been studying the fights. You're watching the Lara fight, study that fight, see what Lara did. Cotto's a great mover, so Cotto has to use the ring. Okay, he cannot stay in a pocket. He has to be in and out. He's very explosive. He likes to ambush, come in, do his work, and move and keep it moving. Escape. You cannot stay in a pocket with Canelo Alvarez. And we see Cotto. He's pretty swift. And I expect him to do this. And this is why I think Cotto's going to win the fight, because I think technically he's more advanced boxer overall. And I think his swiftness is going to be... I just never seen Canelo really look good against a guy that moved. Okay? He looks good when a guy is standing right in front of him. When guys are using more lateral movement, he's always seemed to have trouble. I just can't trust him when it comes to he's fighting a moving target. You know, I don't trust his skills against movers, because the couple of movies I seen him fight, and that was Floyd Mayweather and Lara, they moved so well, and he struggled against these guys. You know, and those are two very, very good defensive fighters. You know, Cotto's very good defensively, but he's not as good as those two. So I understand what people saying. I understand why most people think Canelo's going to win this fight. And listen, if Canelo wins the fight, he wins the fight. You know, it's like I said, I think it's a close fight. You know, I really think it's a close fight. You know, but I'm going with Cotto. I think Cotto. I trust Cotto more on this one, you know, and I think if Canelo was to win, especially if he is to knock out Miguel Cotto right now, Cotto that has, and a lot of people question Cotto, you know, you could question Cotto and the opposition he's faced since he's been successful, Delvin Rodriguez, Sergio Martinez, and you could question was Sergio Martinez, you know, out the game at that point. I mean, at that point, he had nothing left. A lot of people question that. Daniel Gill, he was fighting a drained Daniel Gill, and how good is Daniel Gill? I don't think Daniel Gill is as good as Canelo anyway. So, you know, even if he wasn't drained, I don't think he's as good as Canelo. But, you know, a lot of people question, you know, Cotto and the hand-picked opponents. But Cotto has looked well. He has looked like more of his prime, just based on what I've seen in the ring. He's looked better recently than he has since he's moved up to 154, since he's lost to Manny Pacquiao. All right. And Antonio Margarito. All right. So I'm gonna pick Cotto still. One last point I want to make. I think if the fight is close and it goes to the decision, and let's say, you know, the unofficial scorecards got Cotto up a few rounds. It's a very competitive fight, but, you know, most people based on social media think Cotto wins, or, you know, the unofficial scorecard is saying Cotto got it by a few rounds. I think if the fight is that close, I think they're gonna give it to Canelo. You know, not just based off this whole thing with the WBC and all that, but I just think there's more longevity with Canelo's career. And he's gotten gift decisions before, you know. I mean, how did you get a draw against Floyd Mayweather? You know, I think if the fights and the rounds are close, they're going to give them to Canelo. They did that in the Austin Trout fight. They did that in the Floyd Mayweather fight, because even a 116, 112 scorecard in the Floyd Mayweather fight, I thought was a little too much, all right? 117, 111 is a little bit more reasonable, but 116, 112 and a draw is a little too crazy for me. That's just my opinion. And then what happened in the Erislandy Lara fight as well. You know, I think Lara edged that fight. And, you know, I think if the fight is close, they're going to give it to Canelo. It's more longevity in this kid. Cotto's on his way out. All right. They're trying to make Canelo the face of boxing today, and Cotto's on his way out. Why give it to Cotto when he's not going to even be fighting that long? Obviously, he doesn't care about belts at this point. He wants to get his last bit of change and get out the game, all right? So that's my final thoughts on this fight. Unless something crazy comes up, I'm not going to speak on the fight anymore. Make sure you guys leave comments. Make sure you guys subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.